will be here, Elysium will be over here, so they'll just kind of be like the same size and take up.
Doesn't even work. It's just for the recording. Okay, we're really excited to be here, guys. I did not have 3 panic attacks today, okay? And it's been a really stressful day in real estate. So it's not all butterflies and rainbows.
But it is.
Yes.
But you're here.
But we're here.
Yes.
We're clear and we're ready to roll. Hello? Hello? No.
It doesn't magnify.
Oh, okay. Where's it? Oh, it's for that. Okay.
But the sound will be better if it's clipped on.
It will. Okay.
All right.
Or else it'll kind of
Are we live streaming?
We're prestige worldwide.
Yeah.
Worldwide.
Worldwide.
Worldwide. All right.
Okay.
Ready?
We start.
Me start? Okay, I'm going to start. Welcome to Home Buying 101. So we get asked all the time, well, I get asked all the time, I'm sure Lorna does too, is it a good time to buy a house? We hear on the news all over, social media and everything else, that interest rates are high and nobody should be buying a house right now. On the contrary, you should be buying a house right now. Don't let interest rates scare you, because we can, like working with a really great real estate agent, you can get the interest rate bought down to make it affordable. So it might be a great time to buy a house.
Yes. Who here owns a house? Raise your hands.
I own a mortgage.
Yes,
Okay.
same thing. Same
Okay,
thing.
so you guys don't own a house? Okay, well, we're going to be directing this at you. I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh,
Okay, so this is why we're here today. We're just going to go through just the process, kind of basic information. Hopefully it will allow you guys to be in a better spot when you decide to buy your house. Or if you're even going to sell your house and buy another house. We do that too.
okay. So we're going to talk about the whole. Oh, hello.
That's
Hi,
us,
that's
if you didn't
us.
realize.
You guys are the same as in person. which
Do
is
we?
good.
Oh, good.
It's
Good,
like,
good,
you know,
good.
You never know.
Good,
Yeah,
good, good.
right.
Okay, I'm gonna skip past this. So, I mean,
Well, we've just been doing it for a long time. Wendy's been doing it a bit longer than me, but we moved over to the Elysium group almost a year ago now. So we've been settling in and really enjoying it and enjoying these classes and all the information it provides.
so here we go. Okay, so what you're gonna know is you're gonna find out where to start in the home buying process and what to expect. Because I know it's kind of overwhelming. Like, you think there's so many steps to buying a house, and like, how do you even get started? Well, you get started by talking to a real estate agent, and then they can direct you into, you know, the welcoming hands of a great lender. Okay, here you go. There you go, Lorna.
Yeah, so the first step you're want to do is find a really good real estate agent. Some people will say go and get pre-approved first. We prefer you guys actually coming to us because then we can direct you to lenders that we've worked with in the past, and different ones kind of mesh well with different clients. So it's a good idea for us to kind of meet you guys or meet the buyer and then introduce them to a lender that we would think works well with you, depending on the kind of loan you have, and all that kind of fun stuff. So meeting an agent, and you can research that online. There's so many Google reviews. A lot of people get referrals from family and friends that, you know, have worked with that agent in the past as well. So at least they'll know that they've done a good job. Hopefully they say good things about them.
New people have to introduce themselves out loud.
You
Yes.
guys are 2 minutes late, so welcome.
Well,
We do have a guest speaker just arriving, Andrew, so we'll be calling him up in a minute.
So after we meet with you, we set up a home search kind of based off of our interactions and what you said you would be comfortable with as far as payment. Obviously, you hadn't talked to a lender yet, but we set up a home search based off of your needs and your wants and kind of start trickling homes to you. And then we get you with our, after we start the home search, then we go out and look at a few homes, kind of get an idea of what your needs and wants are, and kind of dial in exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, and then that can go down to like how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms you want, if you want a yard, a fence, a townhome, if you want an HOA. There's so many different properties out there. So we meet with you, narrow that down. So it makes just the search a lot easier when we actually go out and start looking at properties.
All right.
Okay.
So after you've been pre-approved and we start looking at houses and we're looking and we find a house that you love, we talk with you and your lender and we come up with a great offer to place on the home. So, yes. Yes, sir.
Since these guys are here, they can help answer this too on the pre-approval. How easy is it to get a pre-approval for somebody that hasn't gotten a loan? Like literally, is it just over the phone or is it something they have to do? How quickly can they just find out pre-approval? That's a pretty loose term, but.
Well, that's a really good question. So every lender is going to be different how they do the process and getting pre-approved. In talking with us, oftentimes we'll ask a variety of questions which will go from income to debt to your credit to down payment. And we can kind of ascertain all that information over the phone. So if you're in a bind to get an offer out quickly, we can generate a pre-approval really fast depending on timelines. If we've got a lot of lead time, maybe 30 to 60 days before they go out, sometimes it's best to get all that information in, and we can get an actual approval, we can verify income and all of that. So there's a couple different ways we can.
Yeah, and we would direct you guys to talk to a lender first. We do work with these guys all the time, Princeton Mortgage, because we never want to take you out and show you homes that are above your budget or under your budget, right? We want to know the price range you're in and what you can afford, making sure that you're not house broke and going in that right direction. So we would refer you over to the lender to fill even out the application online. You can go in and meet with them, and like Christian said, you can do it over the phone as well, so it's pretty easy. And then these are just the other steps. I think we're going to go into each one of them a little bit more detailed, if you want to.
Yeah,
do the
I'm
next
trying.
slide.
Oh, whoa. Okay, I skipped the pre-approval because we just talked about it. But
So they're going to ask for the pre-approver, they're going to ask for your credit, your
we go.
history of employment. You usually need 2 years. If you're self-employed, it's 2 years as well. Yeah, credit, if you have a down payment, or if we're going to want to look at a loan where you can borrow the down payment and get assistance that way, that's a really good tool for first-time home buyers. If you don't have savings and you want to get into a home when the market's kind of slowing down, then that's a really good option to use as well.
So there's a lot of programs out
Is that a
there
hand?
that you
Okay.
can go ahead.
No, this was just one thing that I wish I would have known when I was buying my first little condo, is I went through and I got my whole like pre-approval piece, and they didn't tell me to not like open or do anything else. So I'd gotten pre-approved for the whole thing, and then I think I'd like opened up like a separate account or something like that, and I guess that can like really impact that approval. Something. So that's something that I wish that I would have known, because it ended up causing some
Issues.
for me.
Yeah,
for
like
sure.
we will tell you, like, don't incur any debt, don't go out and buy a new car 2 days before you're closing. You know, wait till you do appliances. Just wait till you close, because the underwriter and all the lender is going to look at that, and that could be a red flag.
Even if you're used to, charging monthly on like your city card at Costco,
Yeah,
and you're
that
paying it
issue
off every
today,
month,
Yeah.
that's something that you should be talking with your lender about before you continue that behavior.
Yeah, and the good rule of thumb is if you don't know, just ask, and the realtor, the lender will tell you if it's a good idea or not.
Probably the biggest thing about getting pre-approved are there's lots of options for down payment assistance. There's options for, there's USDA homes where it's zero down. There's lots of different options out there if you're open to it. So you don't necessarily need a big down payment to get into a home. So
under the create the budget that you feel comfortable with, will most realtors and lenders basically just tell you the max that you're going to qualify for? I mean, is that, what do you see in the industry?
So they can do that.
Do most people kind of help you say, well, this is the max, but this is really where you ought to be, or is it really just congratulations, you can go get this amount of a home?
So when we sit down with clients, we talk about what they're currently paying for their rent and what they feel comfortable with paying. And that's kind of the information that I give to the lender. Hey, they feel real comfortable with about a $2,000 a month house payment. Okay. And then the lender will take it from there, and as they work through the finances, I'm sure the lender also asks them what they feel comfortable with.
That's a good question, because we can all the time say you're approved for X amount of dollars, but that X amount of dollars might be way more than what they're comfortable in.
Yeah.
So we'll always ask, what's a payment you're comfortable with? What's that price range? Just because to me that's more important than what you qualify for. Because in getting qualified for a loan, the bank uses gross income, and you don't take home gross income, you take home net income. So you got to factor that in as well. So.
And I've even had like a client come and be like, hey, I like this property alone. And then the lender will just use that information and qualify them with that house to make sure that that would work for them. So here's some of the information that when you do fill out the pre-approval, they're going to ask for like W-2 so they can see income for 2 years, pay stubs, bank statements. They will run your credit, and then talk about down payment options. There's different loan products that require different amounts down as well if you do have a down payment. So I think we're going to talk about that as well.
Are we? Are we?
I don't know when, but we will.
Okay. That was,
Do you point there then?
I don't know where I point. That's the problem.
Okay.
Okay, we already talked a little bit about your home search. Sorry, I jumped ahead on that agenda and I was like, we're just like going for it.
And the end.
And we're done. So technology does play a big role in finding a home. But once you've met your agent and you started your home search, stick with their websites. Don't log on to every single agent's websites. You're going to have a million agents calling you, trying to be helpful, unless you want that. I mean, if you want a million agents calling you. Here we go.
I like Zillow.
Yeah?
Boo, get out of here.
It's easy to use.
Zillow isn't accurate because they don't update the information in lifetime. So an issue with Zillow is a client will send me a property and I look it up and it's sold 3 months ago and then they get really sad about it. So we do like to direct people to our websites because it's linked with Utah real estate and it's always updating and showing the correct information.
So how much time should I plan on looking myself versus the time I spend with you as the agent looking? Is there kind of a ratio?
There's no, it's one of those things that I think when you get into the search mode, you're looking everywhere because you're loving everything, and you drove past a house down the road and you want to see what that's worth, so you look it up, and then you're getting all kinds of, I don't know, it's like shopping, right?
Yeah, it's preference, but the sooner you get an agent involved, the clearer the direction and path that you guys can take, they'll help you guide that along and be able to, instead of just driving by the house, they'll actually be able to schedule an appointment to show you. It's just a lot easier with the access that we have.
So once you found your house that you love, we'll work together to build an offer. Once we get that offer put together, so kind of a time frame in mind for your offer. Normally closing, from the time we find the house that you love to the time we close, it's about 30 days. So it's 30 days of searching, doing the due diligence, which we're going to get into. I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm sorry.
Did anyone buy a house like 2 years ago? Okay, what did you think about it?
Oh my gosh, it was so stressful.
Yeah, did you have to bid on a lot of properties?
We got really lucky with our offers, but it was like you would see a house and have to put an offer in that evening. And I was writing like sappy notes to the owners, and it actually worked. Like she told us that she picked us because of my letters. So
yeah, that can work.
it worked. Don't know. That's always.
Yeah, it's calmed down a little bit since then. We're not having to you can usually have a night or two to sleep on it. But yeah, 2 years ago, you were just writing offers. You're waiving all the contingencies and just like praying for the best. Now it's slowed down a bit because of interest rates. So there is a little bit more time to think about it, see more properties. I'm starting to see multiple offers come back into play, but not anything crazy like probably when you bought your house.
Right. So you write an offer, maybe they send you a counter offer back that is something that you would accept. So you accept the counter offer, and then your offer is accepted and you're under contract. So then what? So then we're going to move on to then what? Maybe. Okay. So
So we open
We did
escrow.
we
Yeah,
missed
we did that one.
Yeah.
So we open escrow, and then basically that time frame from under contract to closing starts. Like Wendy said, it's about 30 days, sometimes 45, depending on the property and what the seller wants and needs are. But we do, so you have an option to do a home inspection. First of all, and we always recommend that, right? You want to know what you're buying. You don't want to spend so much money on the biggest purchase of your life and find out after you've closed that it's falling down or there's structural issues. So a home inspector will come in and check everything out, make sure it's up to code, flag things that they might have concerns about, and then they will write up a report and give that to us and the buyers. And then at that point, depending on the repairs, we can negotiate on your behalf as well on the seller either fixing those or giving you additional credit to fix that after closing, and things like that. So another negotiating process happens there. And that takes about 2 weeks, is usually about due diligence. And in that time, you don't just need a home inspection. You can get like a meth test done, radon test. That's pretty popular in Utah because we have so many basements. Mold testing. So there's a lot of different tests that you can do just to make sure that the house is exactly what you want to purchase.
Should you test for meth if it doesn't look like it's an area of town where
Yes.
meth is?
Yes.
How come?
Meth is everywhere.
It is?
Yes.
We use it as a negotiating tool. So even if like you test for meth and it's minuscule, we could still take that back to the seller and be like, hey, this is what we found, to see if we could get more credit or, a better deal for our buyers. So we would always recommend that.
So if it tests positive, if your home tests positive for meth during this time frame, it's not like the end of the world. A lot of homes will test positive for meth, but it's just depending on what the amount of meth is that it's tested at. I think Utah as a state requires remediation, anything over 1 micro unit, millimeter, I don't know. Did you have a question?
Yeah, so by accepting the offer, if you do get the inspection and the house is completely falling apart, is there like a way to back out of it completely?
Yes,
or
yeah. During this time frame, it's your due diligence deadline, so you can back out and have 0 repercussions, only the cost of your inspection.
So yeah, and you do get your earnest money back. I don't know if we mentioned
We didn't talk about
yeah.
earnest money. We need to talk about that.
Yeah. Talk about it now.
Let's talk about it now.
So yeah, when you submit the offer, there's something called earnest money, where it's basically like a deposit of how interested and how much you want the property. So the higher earnest money amount, the more serious the buyer is, and that either wraps into, at the end, it goes towards the purchase price or closing costs. If you do back out within that time period, though, you do get that money completely back, like free and clear.
At what point do you not get it back?
After the due diligence deadline, if you're backing out for any reason regarding the condition
Inspection
or you just have a bad feeling about the house, you just decided you don't love it, you can back out with 0 repercussions.
It's just in that phase, not if, like,
In that
you're
phase.
lending
And then
Yeah,
there's a next phase, which is your finance and appraisal deadline. And that's your next step to back out. So,
Yeah, so
and
you
that's
do have
if
a couple
any
times.
financing, if there's any issues with your financing,
And
you
that
can
can
back
be
out.
as like small as, oh, I don't like my interest rate, or I've changed my mind, I can't afford this. You can back out because of that. And that's usually about 3 weeks after you open escrow. So there is
After
a
you
couple
get
deadlines
accepted
where you're
contract.
able to back out before you lose earnest money.
So for your question, like, if you have a contract that's 30 days, you have 21 of those days to be able to rescind the offer if you're not feeling comfortable. So we tell people
Yeah.
it's like test driving a car. It's like they let you kind of take it out for a spin for a little while. It's not like you're having to make a decision in a moment's notice. You get several weeks now to kind of process that and see it. Bring your family to see the house, have the inspectors come look at the house, have all of these things done so you feel like, okay, yeah, we met with our lender, we know we can afford it, all of those things. So you have quite a bit of time during that process to kind of go back to your agent and say, I'm not feeling this anymore, I'm terrified, or, you know, we're in over our heads, or all of those things potentially could come up.
Yep. Okay.
And it's nice to know you wouldn't lose any money by doing that. You would have lost some time, but yeah, before you make an offer, you should know that. That helps.
Yeah. You do have an eject button
Yes.
available. Okay, so the appraisal is ordered from your lender. So your lender orders the appraisal to make sure the home is valued at the amount that you've offered. So this is just to make sure that the bank is secure with the amount of money that they're lending you to purchase the home.
Now, if the property appraises for more than what you are under contract for, the purchase price, the good thing about that is you just walk away with that instant equity. So if it appraises for $20,000 over what you're buying it for, you just have that equity in your pocket when you close. If it appraises for less, that's an issue because a lender isn't going to lend on something that's not worth that amount. So at that point, your realtor would have to go back and negotiate and figure it out and pretty much come down to that price, or they'd have to bring in additional funds depending on how much they love the home. There's a few different options.
Yeah. 2 years ago, people were paying way above appraised value,
Yeah,
and
they
now
were waiving
it's kind of
appraisal and
all that's
paying
kind of
way
settled
above
down.
as well, just to get into a home.
I have a question. What's
Yes.
the difference between the appraisal process for the seller and the lender? Like, why is that sometimes different between the two? If that makes sense.
Because the seller just has an evaluation that a real estate agent has done on the property based off of what has sold in the neighborhood. And the appraiser sometimes has a different scope of what they're looking at over what the real estate agent had valued that property at. Is that kind of answer? Or they look at different comparables. So
there's no real, like, I don't know, difference between the two processes, if that makes sense. It's just like almost two different opinions. Like,
yes,
Yeah.
correct.
They're not objective. There is subjectivity to them.
Oh, okay.
And so, and oftentimes we have found that on the listing side, the agent will gather information and set a price, and we have found a lot of times the homeowner thinks their home's worth X amount of dollars without going through any process. They've just heard of Johnny down the street sold their house for this much money, so they want to get that much out of it. But yet they could be completely two different homes, different size and square footage, all kinds of things, so.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's almost just like finding the people that are not well informed.
Yeah.
In terms of like an appraiser. Okay.
Yeah, and your realtor too, because they'll have all the tools, suggest a price to you, and if the appraisal does come in low, you know, it happens, but it could be an issue. So you want someone that knows the area, and usually the realtor can get it pretty close to appraisal value with the tools they have.
That's the power too of having an agent on your side too. If it appraises for lower, you can have that agent go to bat for you and negotiate.
Yeah, and try to get the purchase
Yeah.
price
If
lower.
you don't have an agent
Yes.
on you, sometimes you
Yeah, sometimes you just don't know, and you're like, oh.
Well, it appraised at this amount, so
Yeah, imagine if a seller's selling for $450 and the appraisal comes back at $425. If you're a seller, are you gonna be super excited that your appraisal came back
Yes,
$25,000 lower? So
No.
seller's gonna be like, well, I don't believe you, you know, I had an offer for $450 and I have some person telling me now it's worth $425 and now the buyer expects they're gonna get it for $425. So now you've got a real conflict going on where you have to have somebody with experience to bridge that gap between two people that now feel like they're at odds, where before they were like, we got this great deal, and now all of a sudden there's major conflict.
yeah.
Because we want to fight for you as the buyer to make sure you're not overpaying for something, but a seller isn't super excited about giving up $25,000 either, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
A lot of
sometimes you have to just
A
depend
lot
on
of
them.
times
Yeah.
there's a happy medium.
Yeah, I actually just had one that I was the listing agent, and the comps were there for the price that we listed at. Appraiser came over and his appraisal value was way lower than the comps I had was showing. So I appealed that appraisal. I was like, oh, hell no, this isn't what that is. So I ended up having to, appeal it, and they did actually come up on the value. Not as much, but it still came up, and then we just took away the concessions, and sellers were happy.
Is it just like the appraisers maybe having a bad
Yeah, like his wife left him, or like he didn't have a good breakfast. Just really depends.
or they're just not, they're being lazy,
Yeah.
not looking
Like
at
I
all
had
the
one
all the
too that
information.
the appraiser didn't even go into the property. The square footage was off, all that kind of stuff. So that one I appealed as well, and was able to get the price up too. So you have to watch and know how to read the appraisal reports, because there's a lot of information on there. So that's like another thing a realtor will be able to help you with, because we're looking at appraisals all the time.
Closing time. So after you've met all of those deadlines, it's finally time to close. So you'll you'll set up a time with the title company, and you will go in and you'll sign huge stacks of papers and wire all of your funds for your down payment or your closing costs, or down payment and closing costs. Once all of that has been done, they will record it with the county that it is in your name and you're now the property owner. So good times, yeah.
You made that seem really simple.
It is, that part of it's simple. Once you get there, it's simple.
Yeah.
But getting to that point, you're signing a lot of documents for the lender. You're agreeing to all of the terms of your loan 1,000,000 times.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that could go wrong. Like you could lose your job, that's something people don't plan for. So there is reasons why the deal falls apart as well. You just need to make sure that those deadlines are like at front of mind, so you can back out before your earnest money becomes non-refundable.
Yeah. So in the time from when you go under contract to closing, you're not opening any credit cards, you're not buying RC Willey furniture, new cars, you're not quitting your job, nothing like that. Nothing changes.
Right.
That's it. Was that fast? I feel like it was.
And then I don't think we covered just the different types of loans there are. So for first-time home buyers, most of the clients that we've helped would look at an FHA loan. That can be as little as 3% down, 3.5%, for FHA, or we can look into Utah Housing, which is 100% financing, which means you don't have to bring a down payment in, you borrow that as well. So that's a really good stepping stone. That's how I got into my first house. And yeah, just to get in there and start building your own equity, and it's great.
That's great.
And then there's conventional, has a few or less restrictions, but there's different down payment options for that as well. 3%, 5%, 10%. You can go up to 20%, and then you're avoiding paying primary mortgage insurance, and that will save you a couple $100 as well on your monthly payment. But not a lot of first-time home buyers have 20% down.
Can you talk about gifts for down payments and how people can get those as well from whomever? You can fight over it.
So gifts, and that's another great question, because oftentimes first-time home buyers don't have 20% saved up. They're just trying to kind of, establish their credit and all of that. So you can get a gift from a homeowner, from a family member. You can get a gift even from your employer if you had to. You can take money out of your 401k for a down payment. Like Lorna said, there are 100% programs, and there's pros and cons with all of those programs. So it just depends. But get in and meet with your lender to find out, what's the best option for you. What's the best and cheapest payment, those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're looking at like pre-approval and looking at your loan options, is it best to go in knowing what type of loan you want, or is it best to find the property that you want and tailor your loan from there?
So a lot of those loan programs are going to be tailored based on your down payment. So for example, FHA's minimum is 3.5% unless you decide to do Utah housing, which is 100%. So based on your circumstances, we would look to see kind of what fits your situation best. I can tell you that if your credit scores are really high and you have around 3% to put down.
You say what really high is, like
740 or greater. Then you're going to be looking at a conventional loan because it's going to be cheaper than an FHA.
Okay.
FHA, their mortgage insurance is going to be considerably higher than conventional with that credit score. So,
Okay.
So when you look at the different loan options, then you can kind of see where your payments will fall. And then based on where those payments fall, then you work with Lorna and Wendy to say, hey, this is my price range I'm going to be in. Show me homes that will put me, right here.
Okay, that makes sense.
it's really hard to look for houses that you wanna buy that you can't afford.
Right.
It sucks.
And then to
Really
look,
discouraging.
and then look at the ones that you can afford, and you're like,
So it is better. We always try to tell people, like, talk with the lender first and sit down with your agent, and then draw a line in the sand of what you actually can afford first.
Okay.
Because if you're just out looking, you're gonna be like, man, I would love to figure out how to do this, and more than likely, you're gonna be emotionally invested and financially compromised,
Right.
right? You're gonna want it more than you should. So you'll wanna sit down and just talk with them first and say, this is our line in the sand where we feel comfortable. Now show us what sheds we can afford, you know, or what mobile, whatever it is. I mean, you wanna look and see, like, based on the numbers we have, we just wanna be shown the things that we feel like we can afford, not what we want.
Right.
Because then the want is the stepping stone. It's where you're getting, it's where you're gonna go. May not be the first quote-unquote place that you ever get, but if you've got a goal, then you can start off and just get started like Lorna just said she did.
Yeah. And what's the FHA credit, like minimum credit score for FHA? Is it about like 620?
620.
You can't go to 580.
Yeah, 580, but they'd like to see like 620, 630, and then you're just getting a better interest rate. And
So when you said gift, you mean like just somebody
giving you a down
ask your
payment.
employer.
Yeah.
My employer is not gonna give me $20,000.
Are you sure? Have you asked? Have you asked?
You're married.
you're in the wrong industry.
Janessa hasn't told you about the budget too.
Matt, I need one of those gifts.
Yeah, like they'll do a gift, like
Actually, that's
it
a
can be
regular letter.
said a gift, but what you discuss with your family member or whatever, if they do want that money back,
Okay.
that's something you discuss. We have to call it a gift, as in they're giving it to you and you have no interest in paying them back. But whatever, discuss behind closed doors.
25 years of doing loans, I don't think I've ever seen an employer
Okay,
give the money,
that's-
so don't be.
Yeah.
I was like, it must be something that I'm
It
not
can
understanding.
happen.
It's usually when the employer's your dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Could
Right.
you guys maybe just say too how you guys are compensated? Because I think oftentimes people buying a house feel like, oh, I may save some money if I do this on my own.
Right. Want to take that?
Sure. So buyer's agents are paid by the seller of the home to bring a buyer. So we split compensation with the seller's agent. So to bring you in, and that way you have representation too on the transaction. So there's no cost to you to have a buyer's agent.
Yeah, so you get our experience and
What's that?
knowledge, but the seller pays us.
Yep.
Once we close. Each brokerage does typically have a transaction fee, which is just a couple $100s. But if you're using the right agent, they'll be able to wrap that into the closing costs, and it's minuscule compared to what the house price is.
And from I think what Greg said earlier, like there's no price you can put on as far as using a realtor because they really have your best interest. You're not going to save any money by doing it on your own. And they take care of all the T's crossed, I's dotted, especially when it comes to inspections. Things come up all the time that they deal with that oftentimes you have no idea about. And so I can tell you just on the lending side, like it is so nice to have someone that knows what they're doing on the real estate side that takes care of it and puts everything together. It just goes really smoothly.
And that goes for builders as well. if you go into a model home, just looking, the builder's agent is gonna really try to deter you from using your own agent and be like, no, we'll help you. But that's really just putting money in the builder's pocket. Like, they're gonna just make more money because on the MLS, they still are required to pay a buyer's agent when we represent you in building. But I've even gone in and they've been like, oh no, you don't need an agent, and that's kind of their sales tactic to save money for the builder. But that's not helping our clients out at all. So keep that in mind as well, like for new construction.
I remember years ago, like if we walked into a showroom and we filled out their card, we had to like list the agent at that very moment, or it didn't count.
Yeah, now they're even more strict. Most of them will actually make you have the agent with you. Sometimes you can just write it down.
Oh, really?
But a lot of the time, if your agent isn't present on the first place, that they'll cut you out of the deal.
And like that agent couldn't be part of that process at all.
Yeah.
No,
They
yeah.
can't, they just can't get.
They just won't get paid.
Yeah, and I don't work for free,
Yeah,
so.
Well, and dealing with builders, it's really important to have an agent because there's a lot of things sometimes they have their own contracts. There's a lot of things in their contracts that sometimes can go against the buyer. We saw a lot during COVID where they were charging markup in price. Like, we can increase the price of your home 20% from the day you go under contract because building materials went up. So you're building a home and you go under contract in June and you're closing in December and your price went up $30,000 because the lumber went up in price rather than locking in the price. So there was a lot of things with builders that they sometimes try to get by us.
In there, yeah.
And what's the payment on the other side?
So if you're selling a home, typically it's 6%. All of the commissions are negotiable, but it's typically 6%, and then the buyer's agent takes 3% and the seller's agent takes 3%. So they just split that commission.
And on the sell side, the agent, or we do anyway, will cover everything from like the photography, marketing, open houses, all that kind of stuff. So that's all included in that fee as well.
So when you see like in a listing, they're like home for sale by owner, no agents. They're trying to just
do. Yeah, they're
trying to do that themselves. But a lot of the time, if you are already working with an agent and you do see a for sale by owner, still talk to the agent because they can go to that seller and be like, hey, I'm representing this. Will you pay me the 3%? And a lot of the time they will. And they're still saving money on their end, but then the buyer has representation. So that's happened as well before. Is there another slide? Or is
No, that was the last slide. Oh, just kidding. There is another slide. But those are old. Oh, there's us.
There's us again.
That's it.
So upcoming classes. Cool.
Business boot camp is March 5th.
Yeah. Any other questions? Or I know we kind of went through that pretty quick. Yes.
How much is a typical inspection?
About $350. They usually base it off square footage. So if it's 5,000 plus, it's going to be a bit more. But like a $400,000 home, I would plan on like $350.
And then if you want to add on the meth test, it's another $100. If you want to add on, you do.
Yeah, because you could probably get more credit from the seller in the long run.
You can add on a mold test. You can add on a sewer scope.
Yeah.
There's lots of things that we can we can't inspect, but we can have people inspect.
Yeah. And does the buyer pay for that?
The buyer pays for that. Yes.
Yeah, so the amounts that you'll pay out of pocket before closing is the home inspection, the appraisal. Some lenders will actually cover that cost or collect that at closing, but those are the two, like, cash up front.
And your earnest money.
Yeah, and your earnest money, which is a deposit that will go to the purchase price.
I know with our appraiser that did our house, he like recommended certain things, like because they like scan the walls and so they're like, oh, you probably don't need a mold test, so they'll give you
Yeah.
recommendations. Sometimes you might wanna still get stuff, but
Yeah.
they'll.
Yeah, and the inspectors we use, like they're doing it full time, so they'll give advice as well, like, hey, maybe we should do this, like especially with mold.
Or if they see a big problem, then they'll recommend that you have a professional in that field come and
out,
look
yeah.
at it.
For like
'Cause-
structural issues,
yeah.
a roofer, you know, things like that. So there's other options as well that they'll refer out. So,
This is just kind of, what's the most amount of homes you've had to show a single buyer before they bought one? And what's the fewest homes you've had to show a buyer before they've?
One home is the
You've done one
fewest.
home.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Probably the most is 30 homes.
Okay,
Yeah.
over how long
That's a
of a
lot.
period is that?
It was over like a 5-month period of time.
Okay,
Yeah. So it was kind of a long time,
Yeah.
but
and did they end up with one?
and they ended up with a house. So
And working in this industry, you get to know people's personalities. Some people will walk into a home and be like, yeah, I'll get this one. Some people want to see 50 homes, and then they'll still go back to the first one. You know, it's just reading your client and understanding and catering to their needs.
Yeah.
So I think I've showed maybe like 15, and then I fire them after that. No, I'm just kidding.
Just getting started.
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, but we would be with you all along the way because we want to be able to find, you know, we want you to be happy and we want a good review. We want to make sure that you are spending on the money on the house that you want, right? We're not going to ever force you to settle.
I
what
mean,
about area?
Like where we service or what?
No, just how broad, is it helpful for people to have a more broad area to look? Or
depends on your budget.
Okay,
I think, because a lot of people that have a kind of a smaller budget, you're willing to look at all the houses in that price range because you want the best house for $300,000 or whatever that dollar amount is. So a lot of times when you have a lower budget, you're more open to the areas to live in because you want just whatever.
If you say I want like a single family home that's 5,000 square feet, that's $400,000 in South Jordan, you're like, cool, let's go look in 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
That's awesome. I'll meet you there.
And the rule of thumb I kind of like go off or tell my clients is like I-15, east of I-15 is going to be more expensive. West, you're going to get more affordable homes for better prices.
If someone's like in a year or 2 years from now or whatever that is, if they know that that's a goal or something that they're wanting to get to, what are things that you recommend for people to start preparing or mentally preparing to get ready for that?
Working on your credit to make sure you have really great credit. Are you talking about just getting started, but like you're looking forward to buying your first home?
Employer with the down payment.
Yeah, finding the employer that'll gift you that down payment.
Yeah, I would say like saving a down payment, and we can go over like the different amounts so they kind of know what to save. Yeah, making sure you're paying your bills, your credit's not getting affected at all.
Is that something for people who are like, oh, I know I'm not ready in the next couple months? Like, would you recommend still like coming and meeting with like a real estate agent to start kind of long-term planning for that, or is it just like when you're ready?
No, long-term planning. Most of the people that we meet with, actually, like if you're a first-time home buyer, we meet with you, we kind of give you an idea of how long it'll take, and then you meet with the lender, and they give you all the facts, and then normally it takes about 6 to 8 months to get going from that point.
Yeah, but we would always recommend to come in and meet with us first, go over everything, answer any questions, especially if you've never bought a home before, to give you a good idea of what the process is going to be like. And then even if it's 6 months down the road, we would keep in touch with you. So when you're ready, we'll already know what kind of home you want. We'll know where you, like the location, we'll know what kind of down payment you have. So it's definitely beneficial to come in and talk to us.
And I think too, one of the big things is, know your credit, where your credit's at. Because credit plays a huge role in what you qualify now for. So So the higher your credit is, you're gonna get a lower interest rate, lower payment and all that stuff. So it can really affect how much you have, can buy in a house. So, you can go out, there's a lot of free credit places out there you can go and look at. That'll give you an idea that for the mortgage rating, they actually look at different credit score models than like what Credit Karma will show you. So your scores may differ a little bit, but that will give you a good idea in your credit history and where your credit's at.
At least a baseline.
How much different would it cost you a month if your credit score was
Yes.
750 versus 620?
It could be a couple $100, yeah, 200-300, maybe more.
So $4,000 a year could be the difference of what you're paying just because your credit is marginal.
And what gives you more buying power? A better credit score, more income, combination? Like, if I'm looking to increase my buying power.
Combo.
Yeah,
It's a
both.
combo
Of those two?
of all those. We've
Both,
got
but you're
to-
gonna at least wanna have a good credit score because you wanna qualify. If your credit score is like in the low 500s, you're not even gonna be able to qualify for a loan.
Well, your higher credit score, you're going to get a lower interest rate, so that's already going to improve your buying power.
Your buying power will come down to four things. It's gonna be interest rate, down payment, income, and debt.
Okay.
Yeah, working on your debt would be a good thing as well, Janessa, with like, if you're a year out and oh, I have to pay off this credit card, like snowballing that to make sure it's paid off would really help with your debt to income ratio when you're getting qualified through a lender.
And then too, with those credit cards too, so pay those balances down, but you don't need to close that account out. Because the credit history will look at like the length of time you have those accounts open. So it's actually good to have accounts open and have a long history on them. Just pay it down, keep those balances low or pay it off. So you can put money on the credit card each month, but just pay it off or keep those balances low. And the longer credit history you have, the better your credit score will be.
Okay.
So we have a question, for those who haven't bought a home yet, what do you think interest rates are at today?
7%.
Yeah.
You have a quote or something for him?
We've got
I have a prize. I have a prize. I have a prize.
No way. This girl's not fair. Nice.
Oh. At what point can you back out without losing your earnest money?
Your due diligence.
Before the
Yes. You can't have both.
They're both right.
Yeah, they're both right, but we
Oh, I don't have another one.
It's okay. I'll take the high five.
We'll give it to him.
High five.
It's like, I'm cheating.
she read the notes beforehand, so.
Oh. Does anybody have any other questions?
Izzy, what questions do you have?
None.
None?
None.
Have you learned something?
Yes, I did. I have a whole paper.
You do have a good.
Oh, nice.
You have really nice handwriting.
Thank you.
Katie, you haven't asked a question. You have a question?
Don't right now. I guess, okay, well, kind of. I've been kind of talking about with him, but I guess I could ask you guys too. Like, okay, for someone who doesn't have a credit card, like right now, like I need to get one quickly. But, like, okay, let's say, I don't know, how does that work with, like, are they going to look at that as, like, an agent or anything going to look at that and be like, okay, they're not, I don't know. Like,
Well, I think it depends if you have credit, are you talking about if you have credit with no credit card or if you just don't have credit?
Like if you haven't built up good, like.
Okay,
you
so
don't have
a good
enough-
way.
You haven't had it for like enough time.
Yeah, so a good way would be opening like a secure credit card through your credit union, with a minimal amount. Some of them do like 300 or 500, putting expenses on that and paying it off every month. That's going to help build up your credit. So if you don't think you have enough, because some people, starting 18, no one has credit, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Pay to
quickest way
30%.
too, if you're trying to build that credit, oftentimes you can go on as an authorized user with like a parent or something, and that way you're kind of piggybacking on their credit, and it all of a sudden gives you a credit score instantaneously within 6 weeks.
If they have good credit.
I was gonna say the
Yeah.
requirement.
Yes.
Careful who you're piggybacking on. Just
Yeah.
saying. That
Right.
goes for a lot of different things.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good way as well. If your like family members, something will allow you on their account, then that will help as well build up the credit.
And they'll get like extra Sky Miles for it.
Yeah.
So
Is that the best way though for like her, just is open a small credit card just in her own name
Small
and
credit card, yep, open one.
and
in
pay it
your
off
name.
every month?
Yep. And ideally, you always want to keep your balances at least 30% of the credit limit. That will optimize your credit score, so.
So don't max it out?
No max it out, that's right.
Yeah.
If somebody didn't
30%.
wanna get a credit score and wanted to go the Dave Ramsey route, do you know anything about manual underwriting? Or is it a feasible option for people?
It is feasible, but it's not the norm, let's say that, it is feasible. And it's usually on FHA loans, and most Dave Ramsey clients will have a large down payment, and so you really want to avoid that mortgage insurance, so conventional loans will not do a manual underwrite, it's usually just on FHA.
Is it just FHA? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So,
Good question. Alex, you have another question?
Right now?
Yeah.
How often do credit bureaus report credit scores?
monthly.
Monthly?
Good question. Good question.
Jenna, you have a question?
I'm good.
You're good?
Ask a question.
Okay. No?
Okay,
All
well,
right.
I think we covered it all, then, didn't we?
That was it.
Oh, and 3
Woohoo.
minutes to spare.
Woo! Woohoo! There we go.